I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the will run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. See conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers could give up.
Politics and sinners,
they all the same.
Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity.
Good morning. You know, I want to do independent music. And here is Bryson Gray. Yah says. I'll be right back right after this.
If I say it's right, then I say it's right. But if he call it wrong, then I call it wrong. If he tell me stay, then I gotta stay. But if he tell me leave, then you know I'm gone. What's revealed is for us and for all our children. But everything that's hidden is for him alone. How can we unite all behind the truth when everybody quarrel over the unknown? Let's see the conclusion of the whole matter. Ecclesiastes 12 should be the end of all the chatter. Wolves and sheets clothing got you skipping through the chapters. Boy, I'm really in them scripts, I'm not a regular rapper. Sword on me, they'll cut, but I'm not an actor. One of my uncles was a robber, other was a trapper. My pops chose a different path, he could've took it backwards. But now his son giving scripture more than most his pastors. Are you really in those scriptures? Boy, don't lie to me. Paul said, don't be spoiled with vain philosophy. Y'all turn man-made tradition to theology. Hey, that's Colossians 2, I let the Bible speak. What's a theologian to a church father? And what's a church father to the word of God? You supposed to let the scripture dictate your doctrine, and your personal opinion should be set aside. If I say it's right, then I say it's right. But if he call it wrong, then I call it wrong. If he tell me stay, then I gotta stay. But if he tell me leave, then you know I'm gone. They gon' say it's pride again when I tell them I'm not struggling with willful sin. Isn't that how it's supposed to be when Christ within? In Matthew 24, he told us endure to the end. Hey, am I supposed to lie? Should I front to you? To make people in that sin feel more comfortable. But whatever, you gon' do what you wanna do. Good is called evil, you see what it's coming to. Should I be ashamed of the narrow way? And should I go back sinning every day? Even though I don't, that's what they want me to say. Because everything the church taught you led you astray. If I say it's right, then I say it's right. But if he call it wrong, then I call it wrong. If he tell me stay, then I gotta stay. But if he tell me leave, then you know I'm gone. What's revealed is for us and for all our children. But everything that's hidden is for him alone. How can we unite all behind the truth when everybody quarrel over the unknown?
Um, one of the first things that I actually wanted to discuss this morning uh, was the Karmelo Anthony verdict. So, good morning, good morning. Before we get into today's show, I want to talk about something that has dominated conversations all across social media, barbershops, churches, workplaces, and family group chats. The Karmelo Anthony verdict. A lot of people want to make this conversation about race, but I think there's something much deeper brewing beneath the surface. Something that nobody really wants to discuss: generational trauma. Because when Black Americans hear about another courtroom, another verdict, another prosecutor, another judge, another headline involving the criminal justice system, we are not just noticing, or we're not just reacting to the case in front of us. We're reacting to generations of experiences. We're reacting to stories passed down from our grandparents, stories passed down from fathers and uncles, stories about unequal treatment, stories about selective prosecution, stories about sentences that didn't fit the crime, stories about justice that didn't feel very just. Whether those stories happened 50 years ago or 5 years ago, they leave scars. And those scars don't disappear simply because somebody tells us to trust the process. That's why whenever a major case captures national attention, people just don't evaluate the facts. They bring their history into the conversation, their family's history, their community's history, their personal experiences. And that leads me to a question. When politicians, prosecutors, media personalities, and activists tell us that justice has been served, justice for who? The victim, the defendant, the government, the media, or the public relations machine that always seems to know what narrative it wants before all the facts are even known? Those are uncomfortable questions, but uncomfortable questions are exactly what disenfranchised voter was built to ask. Now let's get into today's show. The first thing that I really wanted to talk about was Liz Collins had a conversation with one of the police officers that were convicted of aiding and abetting of murder of George Floyd. And I just really want to, he says that a lot of injustices happened to Derek Chauvin. And I just want to get a police officer's that was a part of it. And it's years later, it's 6 years later, perspective. That doesn't mean that his statement or what he's putting out here is 100% true, because a lot of that shit hasn't been, the courts wouldn't accept that. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't know about this George Floyd story, because it just wasn't about a $20 counterfeit bill. The passengers in George Floyd's car that day, they pleaded the fifth. They didn't want to incriminate themselves on the stand because George Floyd's drug dealer was right next to him. That's the one who was giving George pills. And that was never really talked about. We never wanted to hear we just wanted what we saw on video. And I know that I'm going to say this because I was one of those people. It took me back to Rodney King. If I'm being, 100% honest here, it brought me back to Rodney King. I wasn't old enough to understand. I was just a teenager. I know things now as a 49-year-old that I should have learned or been taught, and I wasn't. There's a lot of history that I didn't know. There's a lot of things that happened throughout history that I never knew. I didn't know about. I didn't know about the 3 men that were lynched in Duluth just until 2020. I maybe heard stories about it. I mean, it's the same thing with my uncle. And that's why when I look at this Carmelo Anthony, it brings me back to not only my uncle Willie Francis, but it makes me think about Trayvon Martin. It makes me think about Medgar Evers. You know, this isn't just about Carmelo Anthony. It's not just about one person to me. This is something that is generational and it's trauma because those things have happened. You know, I'm sure there is a lot of Black families throughout America that have injustices in their family. I'll talk about mine. You know, we can go down to Louisiana. My uncle was executed not once, but twice, and he was a juvenile. So how am I supposed to feel of like nobody cared that he didn't do it? You had a white man that did everything possible to fight for Willie. It wasn't enough. But I do feel like on appeal, Carmelo will win appeal. I truly do believe that. There was a lot of things that I really felt like he should have got on the stand and explained. It's the same thing with let's like this whole George Floyd. They gave us a narrative. Never it was the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It was always what is gonna make. Are we gonna pacify these activists? Because that's what it comes down to. And it's like, what are people really afraid of? Are you afraid of the truth getting out here? Because I can tell you like this, the more that things come out in Minneapolis when it comes to the city council, when it comes to Minneapolis Police Department, or even the things that happen in St. Paul that are just coming out. And it's crazy. But if you look back through history, through the last couple of years, you can see just from the last couple of years why Minnesota's in such disarray. If you really go back, I would say at least before Jim Crow, not Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Bill was passed. I really do feel like a lot of that shit, when it came to the mafia, when it comes to all the things that were seen in such a disarray now, because a lot of people, and this is just me per se, right? Because I was really involved in the George Floyd, Dante Wright, and I always felt like it was, let's just get this over with and pacify. Let's not make real change because I don't, what's changed? Has anything changed? I still see Black people being treated like we're second-class citizens. I'm going to be that's real. And there's a conversation that people don't want to have. They don't want to have because a lot of people feel guilt. And they feel that guilt is because they had an opportunity to say something and they were silent. They were silent. I know, and people don't think that affects families. It does. It truly does, because if they wouldn't have took land from my family, farms, you know, when what happened to Willie changed my family for years. Nobody wanted to talk. My dad never wanted to talk about. This is the one thing that I don't understand, right? Is we have a lot of elders in our community that have experienced Black and white only bathrooms, restaurants, water fountains. It's like, come on. So when we talk about, I don't understand why they don't want to talk about it. I really don't. I know that, you know, maybe they'll a little bit, but it's like, let's have an open conversation. Let's have an open conversation, because the same things that Blacks were going through in the 60s, we're now dealing with immigrants, the LGBTQ community. So it hasn't been about bettering the Black community. It's been about, okay, how can we make other people fit in? That's what it's been about, because we bow down to lesbians, we bow down to gays, we bow down to trans, queers, immigrants. We don't ever stand up. We don't ever stand up for what's right. And that's what really, really bugs me, is like, we have so many people who are cogs in the system. They would rather jumble up the process than actually do the work, actually try to make people's lives better. So here is Liz Collins and I think his name is Tal Tho. He was one of the officers along with Derek Chauvin. There was a mixed one. Lane, that wasn't him, and there was Kewen. So this is, I'm surprised you haven't really heard much from the other ones, because I know they're out here, and I don't know if they're still in Minnesota or if they have moved on to other places. So, but here is, and he was Derek Chauvin's partner. I want people to know that this was Derek Chauvin's partner.
One of the officers sent to prison for his involvement in George Floyd's arrest and heart attack speaks out about his political imprisonment, the weaponization of Minnesota's justice system, and his powerful message in the brand new documentary, Minnesota Mao. Next. Tu Tao is my guest. Tu, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Liz, for having me. I appreciate, first and foremost, that you have the courage to cover the things that the local media and mainstream media refuses to cover. So thank you for that.
Appreciate you. Right back, sir. Just for some background for our audience, you were a Minneapolis police officer for almost 9 years on May 25th, 2020, when you and your partner, Derek Chauvin, were involved in the arrest and heart attack of George Floyd. You worked to keep the crowd back as Chauvin and two other officers waited for the ambulance to arrive on scene that day, the ambulance that you called for just seconds after Floyd was on the ground. Obviously, there is a lot to say about all of that, but you took part in our latest documentary called Minnesota Mao just days after you were released from prison. It was an emotional interview. I'll be honest, having been away from your wife and kids for years, you shared some very powerful words in that interview, words that have touched more than a few people since. So why did you want to talk about the connection between Governor Tim Walz and Communist China, and why were you willing to speak out?
I just wanted to having gone through this, I just wanted to expose the communist Marxist tactics that were used against us. And if they were willing to use it against us, I trust that they would be willing to use it against your regular citizens. So I wanted to expose and give the truth, because what they want is to smother the truth. And I think we could kind of see that the last 8 years in the Walz administration.
A single taxpayer dollar wasted on fraud should be intolerable.
So I wanted to make it clear to the world that this is the truth that has been smothered for the last 5 years.
Too, with that in mind, if anyone knows a thing or two about cancel culture, media manipulation, and the weaponization of our justice system, definitely it's the four of you who responded to the call that day back in 2020 at 38th in Chicago, an area of controversy ever since. But when did you realize that your case wasn't about justice and that a lot more was going on here?
Pretty much almost immediately, once our leaders, politicians, and the mainstream media got wind of this, they changed the narrative, and you kind of get a sense that this was going to be a different story than what actually happened. And one of the things we wanted to happen was to release the body cameras as soon as possible, immediately, just to show what true transparency is. We didn't have anything to hide. So for them to not show body cameras is really an indictment on what they were trying to do behind the scenes. And I think as a police officer, having gone in voluntarily to speak with the BCA, the questions that they asked me were quite honestly quite pitiful. It was kind of a narrative driven investigation where they didn't desire to really ask the full questions, but only ask the questions that they wanted to ask. So, as a police officer, knowing what an investigation, what questions to ask, I thought that was quite odd.
Two, we've also spoken before, and you talked about how you were basically paraded in front of a crowd on purpose. This was during the COVID lockdowns, people will recall, and your case was moved to family court, which I think is kind of a suspicious move looking back.
The Hennepin County Government Center is essentially a bunker. Everything is done underground. So for Cahill to make the ruling to move us to the family court, it essentially removed that protection barrier for us. And it essentially allowed us to be fed right out into a mob of angry mob while the news media took photographs of us walking through the angry mob. And then, of course, it presented them the opportunity to get a perp walk. So that was, in my opinion, pure theatrics.
So Katie Blackwell is a name I'm sure you recognize. She was the commander of the Minneapolis Police Department's training division when she testified against the four of you. Specifically, though, in Derek Chauvin's trial, she testified under oath that she did not recognize the technique that Chauvin used, the one shown in a photo repeatedly used during the trial. But since then, more than a dozen officers have signed sworn declarations accusing her of perjury. What did you think of her testimony to?
I always wondered, do those 14 officers who signed like sworn declaration saying that she did lie? I mean, I wonder if that like really holds weight in court or if it doesn't. That makes me feel like they don't really want the truth to come out here. And why don't they want the truth to come out here?
And then the praise for her so-called leadership within the department, which I will say seems to finally be under the microscope by the Minneapolis Police Department.
A true leader doesn't lead from behind, and a true leader stands for the truth no matter what the cost is. And to me, Katie Blackwell did exactly the opposite. It was self-elevation, self-preservation, in my opinion. And her lawsuit against Alpha News and You is kind of bizarre because she had already testified in our federal court that the MRT was in fact trained. So for her to sue Alpha News and You just shows the type of character she is. She already knew the truth, but what she wanted was to weaponize the legal system to go and silence the truth. In my opinion, she's a disgrace to that badge. To borrow from former Chief O'Hara, I think they need to rip off that badge and from her and destroy it and never use that badge number ever again. No one should ever have to be subjected to that badge number.
The hypocrisy seems to always be on full display these last years at MPD. Well said. Along with concerns about leadership and telling the truth, when we sat down for your interview in the Minnesota Mao documentary, you mentioned the idea of a quid pro quo. How many of those involved in the prosecution of this case seem to have fared quite well for themselves. Most recently, Governor Tim Walz appointed Judge Peter Cahill to the Governor's Council on Recording the Truth of Operation Metro Surge. So Cahill was the judge who handled Chauvin's trial, your case as well, also the judge who sentenced you. Before sentencing you to even more time than prosecutors requested, Cahill said that he hoped for more regret from you and less preaching.
I was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility, and less preaching.
What do you think about Cahill's new appointment? by Governor Walz?
It certainly has the appearance of quid pro quo. I suppose with the governor leaving office, it makes sense for him to reward his puppets and those who is willing to do and was willing to do his bidding. Let's just go back a little bit and just kind of rehash my case. Cahill determined I was guilty before I even presented my case to him. So this is the person that Governor Walz is appointing. In a sense, as a puppet for Walz, this is what he needs. Perhaps he is the perfect person to implement a predetermined narrative to meet a judgment that Walz wants.
Even that title, Council of Truth, that's really quite something, I'm sure.
Both of them are like two peas in a pod. They wouldn't know the truth that hit them in the face.
I know that you are trying to put this chapter of your life behind you, that you're a proud father, a man of deep faith. You're still on supervised release, and the controversies still seem to be cropping up. The mainstream media desperately clinging to this narrative, ignoring facts for years, whether it's a moment of silence or the long-delayed plans for development at what's called George Floyd Square. What has life been like for you these past 6 months now since you've been out of prison?
It's been great to be back with my children, missing 3 years of really important parts of their life. It's just trying to catch up to them, getting to know who they are, and getting to just show them that they weren't abandoned, but they are truly loved. As a father, I can demonstrate to them what integrity and truth and perseverance, no matter what the difficulty is, that hopefully in the future they can also demonstrate this in their life. So that is my hope for them. I'm eagerly waiting for what the future looks like with them and my wife.
Since the release of the documentary, you should know people have been calling you a true patriot and an inspiration. And I'd like others to know that a Give, Send, Go has been set up to help your family. But Tou Thao, we hope the best for you and for your young family. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Liz and Alpha News, for trusting me and putting out the truth. So thank you very much.
And that will do it.
That is, I wonder why, people don't want to hear his side of it. I do remember of them switching, and I do remember that I was there for that protest at the juvenile courthouse. I never did understand it. It was a long ass perp walk for them. They were followed, things did. I don't really believe like anything got out of hand, or tense, or anything like that. I just think that it was, it just had to go through the people. You know what I'm saying? They just had to walk through there. And I don't really feel like it was bad or anything. I just felt like it was, I do feel like what he's saying, I do see that side of it now. They wanted a perp walk. And I do after watching, to follow Minneapolis and knowing about what I do now about the George Floyd case, even when it comes to like BLM or NAACP, I get it. I understand it. So them doing a perp walk, I get it, because they wanted the community to feel their rage, to feel their anger, to feel their frustrations. So I get that 100%. Yesterday, there was an intense standoff. It got over like at 9:30 last night. It happened around 11:30 yesterday. It went on for a while. He took a woman hostage, had grenades, had bombs, I guess, and was holed up in this apartment all day long. So let's hear about that.
everyone. Thank you for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Kelsey Carlson.
And I'm Simone Woolridge. We begin with developing news out of South Minneapolis tonight, where earlier today an armed suspect barricaded themselves inside of a building near 27th and Nicollet.
So this was after firing at law enforcement serving an arrest warrant in that area. Our Karen Scullin has been at the scene for several hours now. So Karen, what can you tell us about the status of this standoff right now?
Right now, there is just a tremendous amount of law enforcement on scene. We're basically at the intersection of 28th and Blaisdell, which is just up from 27th and Nicollet, where this is actually happening. Now, right there behind me, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's Minneapolis police. They've been working with a battering ram for some time now, getting it prepared, apparently, to be used. This suspect, was on the 3rd floor of that red brick building with the green. I think that's actually a kayak hanging or some sort of an awning. He's on the 3rd floor, so they very much need a very long battering ram to reach that window. They have not used that. Now, this all started around noon today, and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office came to serve a warrant. It was a DOC warrant for the person inside there for a firearm and ammunition warrant. He is a felon. He is not allowed to have that. They tried to serve the warrant. He started firing at them. They obviously at that point had to back up. He's been firing at them periodically throughout the day. I would say it's about an hour and a half ago now, he shot down a drone that was kind of hovering outside the window where he is. He shot down a drone. It was at that point that they were going to have a presser at 5. They backed off that and have been dealing with the situation. He is apparently not giving up. There was word that he might give up, but that hasn't happened yet. As you can see, nobody's leaving. We have ATF, FBI, MPD, Hennepin County, BCA, you name it, they're here. So it's a big group of law enforcement. Like I said, he's been firing throughout the day at law enforcement. It's my understanding Ellie has not fired back at him. No one has been injured. There was an earlier report that somebody had been shot. That is not true. No one has been injured. Supposedly there was a hostage earlier. There were no hostages. So it's just him inside this apartment who is refusing to give up. Several times I've heard police on speaker yelling at him to come out with his hands up, come out the front door with his hands up. He is under arrest. He is ignoring those warnings. He is ignoring that information and remains inside as far as we know at this point. I did see Sheriff Witt arrive on scene quite a while ago. Obviously, she's kind of assessing the situation. There was a lot of command posts and bomb squad vehicles and SWAT vehicles on scene here. But so far, this has just been an hours-long standoff at this point, but dangerous, obviously, for law enforcement as they keep getting shot at. So actually, I could see kind of in front of that building, and there's kind of no Ellie right in front of the building there. Obviously, they're trying to remain safe. I did see on the building next to it, there appears to be a couple of officers or a couple of law enforcement agents on the roof there, just in case something would happen at the other building where this man is holed up. A lot of evacuations in the area. This area is blocked off to traffic. No one can get in or out. A lot of yellow tape keeping us back, keeping the people in the area back. I know there were some concerns about kids who were getting out of school. They had to keep them away. But everybody is safe at this point. No injuries at this point. So we're kind of just at this point waiting to see what happens here, if he's going to give up or if police will go in or something else. Guys?
Karen, really quickly, I know you just mentioned that a lot of people have been evacuated in that particular area. You also mentioned that it is an apartment building. Have the residents living in that apartment building been evacuated, or do we know if there are residents still in there right now?
Well, it's my understanding everything's evacuated in this area here. He's obviously ready to shoot and has been shooting, so it would be unsafe for anybody to be around at this point, and they're holding everybody back from the scene as he just now and then just fires his gun at law enforcement, whoever else is around there. And like I said, he did shoot down a drone a short while ago. It wasn't very far from him, but it was kind of hanging outside his window, I believe. But he shot down that drone. So Ellie has to be very, very cautious as they continue to assess and deal with the situation. And again, that battering ram kind of hooked on an MPD, some sort of, it looks like a piece of construction equipment, like a little front loader or something like that. I don't know my construction equipment, but it is marked Minneapolis Police, so it's something that they have used. And you can see the battering ram possibly on the end of that. It's very long, again, trying to reach a 3rd floor window, which is where he's at. They have repeatedly asked him to come out with his hands up. He is not giving up at this point. And again, this guy was wanted on a warrant, an arrest warrant for firearms and ammunition. Earlier, we heard as law enforcement had heard that he possibly had explosives. That has not been confirmed at this point. Nothing has exploded. Again, just mostly firing those shots, and everybody's just kind of trying to be careful and stay away.
Okay, Karen, so this standoff at 27th and Nicollet Avenue, law enforcement pushing back a news conference, and if they do determine a time that they would have a news conference and address the media, we'll of course bring you that, and we'll be checking in with you in just a bit. Thanks, Karen.
Crazy. And this happens, it's happening more often. I don't know how do we make the community safer from these type of incidents? And truly, I don't know. This is something that I think is spontaneous. I know that he had a DOC warrant out. They tried to go arrest him. He took a hostage. Yeah, I really don't know what to say about that. I don't know how we can prevent that. It's no matter how much we come with gun legislation, I think there always will be people who, will do evil. So I don't think there's one solution when it comes to that. I think there's a multi-figured solution, and it'll take years. Rome wasn't built in a night. Neither was their 2030 plans. They weren't built in one day. Even Mayo Clinic, their forward bound whatever plan has been, that's over 20 years in the making to where they just to get where they're at now. So yeah, I just think it's bullshit. And just like how Minneapolis had a press conference this morning at Continental Foods over north on Penn, to me it's like, how much did the fraud cost us? How much has the frauds cost Minneapolis? Everybody, they always want to tell us about Operation Metro Surge. But how much did the fraud affect Minneapolis? Rochester, Duluth, St. Paul, because there were so many people involved in it. They don't never want to tell us. There's blank statements of 9 billion or 18 billion. And it's like, damn, was it really truly that much? Or was it just a small figure and we're being biased? We're being just thinking that everybody's involved instead of actually, this feels like how we did I won't say how politicians did in the crack era. It was to put people in prison, lock them up. Yeah, lock people up. Did it really work? There was still crack out here. There were still drugs. So, but then they figured a way how to make that work for them. That's how we knew how the CIA was selling head. I know people don't want to believe it, but Freeway Ricky Ross, he was selling cocaine for the CIA. I don't want to believe that it's true. A lot of people don't want to believe that. So when I come to look at the DFL in Minnesota, all I see is dirty fucking liars. Just going to be honest. That's just, I don't know any other way to put that. Because every time something comes out, they fucking lie about it. They don't never tell us the truth. They always spin it in what's better for them. The same way with Republicans. But I will tell you like this, for the level of fraud we have in Minnesota, to say that it's one party's fault, that's a stretch. That's a stretch because there was fraud going on in red areas. You had schools that were like in Faribault or St. Cloud or Duluth or Virginia. Like all these places were attached to feeding our future. But we don't ever get to hear that part. We don't get to hear that part about how Shiloh Temple, how Jerry McAfee's church, We don't get to hear about how Bobby Joe Champion made sure there was quid pro quo. Nobody wants to talk about that. How did his friends profit? Because they profited a lot off the trauma and the brutalization of Northside residents, Southside residents, and made it seem like they were actually doing something when they're not. Because look at North Minneapolis, look at South Minneapolis. If all that money was going to the right places, do you really feel like those communities would look like that? Because they wouldn't. That's just the straight up truth. If all that money that was allocated, donated, went to the right things, our communities will not look like that. And that's straight up, I'm going to be 100% honest with that. That's not hating on nobody. That's just telling the truth. If niggas weren't out here trying to scam or take advantage of the system, our communities won't look this way.
The U.S. House Oversight Committee just released a scathing report blaming Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison for what they call a fraud explosion in Minnesota.
The report comes after Walz and Ellison each appeared before the committee in Washington. Chief political reporter Tom Hauser was in Washington for those hearings and joins us now with details of the report. Tom.
Yeah, most of what is in this 205-page report we have reported before, but this report from the Republican-controlled Oversight Committee provides a comprehensive timeline and account of when the committee says Democrats Walz and Ellison knew about fraud and what they did or didn't do about it.
Why didn't you just tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program?
Governor Tim Walz faced a barrage of questions at a House Oversight hearing in March.
Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic.
Attorney General Keith Ellison also faced the committee.
Mr. Ellison, my concern is that you actively obstructed this investigation.
Now, this report from the committee accuses Ellison and Walz of fueling Minnesota's fraud explosion. Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison were aware of widespread fraud in federally funded social services programs for years, the report says, but repeatedly failed to act. Much of the report focuses on the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud. The report says the Department of Education, quote, continued payments even after identifying serious program deficiencies and allowed hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to continue going to fraudsters for another 8 months. A spokesperson for Walz criticized the Republican-controlled Oversight Committee report, saying, "This committee has proven time and time again to be nothing more than a joke. They continue to rehash COVID-era fraud to distract from endless wars, gas prices, ICE, and the president's insider trading." Ellison says the report is riddled with inaccuracies and misrepresentations, and told me in a radio interview the committee is politically motivated.
We're not engaged in a political process the way that committee is. We're more focused on getting to answers, not trying to assign blame for the purposes.
I want to stop it right here because they always, that's their answer. It's political. They don't answer the question straight up, right? Because who else are we to blame? Y'all, this is the one crazy thing, because I look at all the things that MDE did, elected officials, just to be able to make sure that Feeding Our Future and other scammers got their money, and then they would donate to these elected officials. How is that not quid pro quo? Like something for something. And that's what I truly don't understand. And then they always, every time it breaks down, so people can distract that it's not political. Because it's not. This is about the people. This isn't about Democrats. This isn't about Republicans. The bad fact of it is they don't want to be bipartisan. They don't even want to be nonpartisan. It's either Democratic way or it's either the Republican way. What happened to being about the people? Because people are so stuck behind political parties instead of doing what's right for the people. They would rather do what's going to fill their pockets or who's going to put food on their table, a roof over their head, clothes on their kids' bodies, cars, vacations. What? Come on, man. Like, this is why we don't ever really truly see accountability, because people are so afraid they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them because they don't want to lose that lifestyle
of an election.
Now, this report also covers fraud ranging from childcare to autism to housing. The committee interviewed many witnesses, including the governor's former chief of staff, who the report says responded 260 times, quote, he did not know or did not recall in response to questions. We have the full report for you to.
That's crazy to me on how people have, no matter if it came down to Ellison or Walls, we were always, I'm just gonna be honest. We were always fed bullshit. We were always fed bullshit. Always. Nobody cared. People don't care about. That's the one thing that I don't understand, because even when we talk about Republicans, they knew. They knew. What did they do? Nothing. I'm going to ask a question. What did they do? Besides the officials who are running for office have done things. But can they make, until they get into office, though, that all that is just promises, and I truly do get it. I wanted to talk about this for a minute, right? Because this is a black man, and for him to not even be able to have any type of understanding or even thinking when it came to this, right? Because this is a Republican black man, and this is the reason why I truly do feel that Republicans are not going to turn Minnesota red, is because when it's time to do the right thing, they do the Republican thing. When it's time to do the right thing, they do the Republican thing. So Walter said it's excellent to see a deserved conviction here. Movement in the right direction, away from allowing perverse racial politics to engage consequence-free murder of Americans with the wrong skin color. But 5 years for murder, really? And first of all, he lied. He didn't get 5 years. He got 35. He got 35. And this is the bad part. Yes, there is consequences. But I'll tell you like this. Keep your fucking hands to yourself. This wouldn't have happened if Austin would have kept his hands to himself instead of feeling like he had privilege because it was his high school. You don't own that track field. You don't own that football field. You don't even own them bleachers. So how are you going to tell another person to get up and move because what, they shouldn't be there? So instead you're gonna put your hands on him. And then we have the fucked up thing to me is people, well, that's not enough for self-defense. Who are you to tell somebody what is enough? I will say this, right? Is the boy was there by himself. Yes, he had a pocket knife, which plenty of kids bring with them. That's the one fucked up thing that is really crazy to me about these people, right? I know kids today in rural areas that bring pocket knives to school because it's not considered a fucking weapon. He had a utility knife, had a bunch of different tools on it. I know kids right now that go to school in southern fucking Minnesota And they have brought fucking pocket knives to school. Nobody said nothing. That's what I don't understand. It's like, why is it that we can't talk about this shit really? Why can't we have an honest conversation? Because I will tell you like this, Karmelo Anthony, to me, he didn't mean to hurt Austin Metcalf. He wanted to get away. He wanted to get away. So he stabbed him and ran. Stabbed him and ran. It wasn't meaning to be malicious. I don't think he was meaning to do any harm. He was just trying to harm and get away so that they knew that he was serious. I don't see nothing wrong with that. And to see how many grown-ass fucking adults are okay with another person putting their hands on them, and then we're telling people how they can determine justice. Don't put your hands on people if you do not want to be touched. Don't put your, how hard is that? How hard is it? If you don't want any type of violence, right? And you just want to live your life, don't put your hands on anybody. Don't put your hands on anybody. But the crazy thing is how people are always trying to get a reaction. A reaction. Chud the Builder, calling people niggers. But then you have the white rappers who don't say nigger. They say nigga because they know that there's a fucking difference between those two words. But yet we can't have a conversation about that. It's funny to me how white people use white nigga and don't know the difference between nigger. Fucking sad to me. People, that's what's really, really crazy to me. And people want to make something bigger than what it is. Even when it comes to the Tyson Goodsell case in Minnesota. His own friends set him up to get murdered. I don't think they meant to murder him. They just wanted to rob him. Stop flexing on social media, nigga, if you're not bowdy. If you're not about that life, keep on going a square-ass 9 to 5. Get out of the streets because there's no rules. It doesn't see color. All the streets see is the color green. They don't see the skin color. They don't see that. All they care about is green because I can tell you right now, when I was a cocaine dealer, right, when I sold cocaine, one of the guys that I would deal with, right, that I would, if I didn't want to drive, I had to drive all the way to Texas and I wanted to deal just to like in the area just to get something quick. It was always the bikers, the white bikers, because they would go down to Mexico and get their shit. So of course it would be cheaper. Like street life doesn't see racism, doesn't see races. All it sees is green. Because in that life, all there is greed. There's people being selfish and greed. That's it. Selfish and greed. There is no peace that comes with it. There's none of that. And that's what really, really drives me crazy is that people want to act dumb instead of have common sense. Instead of have common sense. Because even like this, right? I posted this earlier today. The way some of these cases play out, you would think self-defense is a right reserved for everybody except black folks. Except black folks. Look at Collin County population demographics. 54.3% white, 10% black or African American, 0.7% of American Indians are Alaska Natives, 17.8% Asians. So there's a bigger Asian community than there is a nigger community. 5.7 from some other race, and 11.1 from 2 races or more. That's crazy because so most of that jury wasn't black. There wasn't no black person on there. There was people of color, but does that mean that they have the same kind of, I don't know. It shouldn't really come down to race, but that definitely came down to wealth, came down to they couldn't understand that because they're not that color. So I truly understand it when people say, "Oh, that's a jury of his peers." No, it wasn't. Let's be honest, it wasn't. That was nowhere near a jury of his peers. Let's be honest. You know, and I hate when people say that. Oh, it was a jury of his peers. No, it wasn't. Let's not lie. Let's not lie. And that's the way the judicial system has been from the very beginning. It was always meaning to get over on black people. They didn't care. How many people, it's probably a few, who've had family members that were incarcerated or just their skin color. Let's be real. We have people sitting behind bars because of their skin color. Because of their skin color, not because they truly did something wrong, but because of their skin color. And we truly need to have a conversation here in Minnesota. We need to have a conversation in America. Because I'll be real, everything is not what it seems. A narrative goes around and we never really honestly get the truth. And that is, to me, a big problem. Because there's a lot going on. And instead of trying to make it a race relations issue, let's be real and talk about what it really is. Because it's ignorant ass people that just want to be violent. They don't want to have, this is the one crazy thing I really feel like where we've come in the world today is that nobody wants to have conversations. Everybody would just rather be angry. They would rather be mad. But a lot of this shit that comes up that people talk about is real. It's true. I know there's a press conference coming up. I think it's in the next couple of days with Edwin Reed over on 38th in Chicago. Be informed of that. You know, watch that. I'm gonna keep it real. Watch that. Also, this weekend, because I won't be here tomorrow. I won't be back tomorrow, but I will be back here Friday. We'll talk about what's going on last couple of days. Talk about how do we unite people, because that's what it should be about. It should be about how can we come together? How can we come together? Even though we have different views, but we still have the same goal. We might have different views on how to get there, but we have the same goals. And I think that's something that we would truly, definitely need to have a conversation about. So I'm gonna get up out of here. Like I said, I won't be here tomorrow, but I will be back Friday. So until then, see y'all later. Here is Don Tripp, Eddie Valero, W8 Watchers, and Maui.
Finally got a shape. What that mean? Can beat the block for hours. Two though. Wide body, numb basic, bitch got rocket power. Chopsticks like a Chinese spot. Egg rolls with it sweet and sour.
Fought on me, and that bitch got a twin sister like Tia Murray. I be focused on the greenback so much, I be having dreams about it. Feeling like my day can't be complete until I make a bank deposit. Got my own, paranoid, I drive like I'm being followed home. Never know what I'm in, bitch, I got more whips than Indiana Jones.
Short body, but the handle long. Running through, love that beeping sound. Traffic jam, long as the dope good, then we gon' keep a crowd.
Snake niggas gotta weed them out. Real niggas can't leave them out. Gotta learn how to take the good with the bad so it all even out.